Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the table. Once again, it is me, your host, Shannon, joined by my wonderful co-host, Katelynn.
Bonjour.
And our lovely guest this week, Faith.
Hello, doing French introductions.
Welcome back. Because of my recording error, she is back again, but you guys don't know that. This is the one we had to re-record.
Yeah, this is take two. Unfortunately, the first time we tried to do this topic, I think it was your voice, Katelynn, that just didn't end up recording and saving.
Yeah, it was just silence.
Oh, good. So rather than try to fill in the silence, we thought, you know what, we'll just recreate it. It's fine. We all have little theater backgrounds in our history, so I'm sure we can recreate the same magic. So, yeah. With that, little introduction first. Faith, we've known for quite some time now. We all went to the same like elementary and middle school. Faith and I also went to the same high school, and then we went our separate ways for college. So it's been a while since we've like talked and hung out, but so excited to have you here. Her favorite food is Sloppy Joe's, and she is team milk chocolate.
Milk chocolate always.
Always.
I think we're at
I
an
agree.
even 50-50 now on both groups.
We'll have to take a tally. I'm curious. I forget everyone's answers from week to week.
It's nice that we only have to watch through like the first minute of each podcast to figure it out. You know
It's
what?
going to be the season finale. Every season, you're going to tally up the results and see who the winner is.
That's a good idea.
I like it.
We did like have an episode that like we called like the start of season 2, but we never posted it. So as of like now, we're still in season 1. And I haven't decided when I'm going to like switch it over, if we like do it at the start of the next year or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what?
We'll figure it out. Should do like a big finale whenever we decide to do it.
I'll have Molly do it because I bet you she's remembered it.
She remembered what?
I bet you Molly can tell me how many milk chocolate and dark chocolates there were. Just because of her incredible memory with stuff like that. Like we quizzed her last week, Faith, and she remembers the titles of each episode.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like live on the
I
podcast, we
know.
asked her. I was like, "What's the one where I quizzed Noah?" And she like just rattled it off. She knew the whole title. I didn't even know the whole title, and I came up with it.
I love stuff like that. I love when like people do trivia, especially with the creators. Like near them, because the creators never know it that well.
No.
It always cares way more to the people who watch.
Yeah, which is so like endearing too. Like I didn't make a scene of it like while we were recording or whatever, but like I love that she like is participating in it, like either in it or listening to it, which is so sweet. And like even like my family and like our friends that have listened, like this is like it's still a nothing thing. It's not like we're social media presences in any capacity. But it's cool that like I don't know, we get to kind of do something with people without having to like set aside a big time to do something with people. It's just like, here's an hour on a Tuesday. Let's hang out with some people. And like it reconnected us with you, like just out of the blue, which is so cool.
Yeah.
But
it's been really fun.
It is really fun. And I totally get like there is a little bit of an eye roll that comes sometimes. You're like, oh yeah, I have a podcast. And like I totally get it. And it is very much a stereotype thing where like usually it's like, oh, what do you talk about, aliens, conspiracy theorists, or politics, like what you talk about? And I'm like, I talk about chocolate. So it is kind of like the eye roll is totally earned, but like actually getting to talk about it is super fun. But yeah, so we're kind of reverse engineering this podcast in a sense of like we've technically already done it, but we're doing it with a bit more structure than we usually do. So we have things we actually want to talk about in an order this time, which is very rare for us. But Faith, what did you go to school for exactly? I know like generally, but you know like your major title more than I do.
Yeah, so I went to college. I was at Plymouth State. I went for theater design. So I specified in set design and props making. So I did a lot of painting and a lot of making fake food.
Nice.
I love that. It's such a unique major, and I think it's so up your alley. Um, yeah, I love it. I just have like so many fond memories of high school, just like all of our low budget props and things we tried to wrestle together, and always like Faith at the helm, making it look good.
Oh yeah, I went to school for it because literally after one of those shows, like junior year, I was walking out of the building and my mom looked at me and she was like, "Why don't you want to do this for a living?" And I was like, "Wait, you can do that?" And I started looking for colleges.
That's so
So
cool.
good. I feel like there's so many things out there. You don't even know, like, oh yeah, that's an option? Oh, awesome, great. Um, yeah, kind of wild.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think we ask people over the age of 13 enough, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like genuinely, like don't ask people when they're 4. They only know like 4 professions. Like
Hmm.
like
Right?
ask them like
An
as they get older,
astronaut, a firefighter.
a
Yeah,
ballerina, and then whatever their
garbage
parents
man.
do.
And then with their, yeah.
Because like I don't know if I said it on the podcast before, but I went to a different high school. I went to a technical high school, with every intention of going into culinary. And if that doesn't seem super predictable about me, you don't know me enough. But that was my full intention. And then the day that we had to choose our shop, I went to culinary. I loved it. I met Noah there. I had a good time. And then we had to pick our shop, and I couldn't pick it. I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And I picked design that day. And it was the one day that it mattered. I chose design, and I've been doing it every day since. And I think like just like picking without thinking when you're older and like the penalty isn't as high is kind of fun. Like I want to do set design at 14. Like awesome, amazing, do it, because you have so much time to do something else if it turns out it's not for you. I don't know. I think like people don't consider the fun jobs like enough.
I'm so jealous of you for being able to go to like a vocational high school just because like you had that whole world open to you of just being able to like practically do things and learn things as opposed to us where we sat in a classroom and then I worked from like 2 to 5 every day after school actually doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice having like school feel enough like the real world in certain ways, where like you were learning like an actual job and not just like trig every day or like calculus or world history, because you're going to learn that anyway. You either, if you've already learned it in middle school, because like at a certain extent you can only learn about World War II so many times before you get it. Like I get it, I know how it happened, I can rattle off dates, names, order of battles and stuff probably, like, but to like
we spent so much time on it. If it didn't sink in then, it's not going to sink in now.
Yeah,
for sure. And like I totally get why school is set up the way that it is, in like we learn how to train your brain to remember things. We learn like scheduling, we learn problem solving, like on top of like the really boring, like I know how to find the area of a triangle and what a preposition is. Like it does teach you beyond that, even if the information itself is kind of boring. But being able to pair that actively with like CPR training in health and like how to balance a checkbook in marketing and accounting, and like how to use PowerPoint in business tech, which is like, it sounds really stupid, but like I have PowerPoint, Word, and Excel on my resume now, and that is as valuable as knowing how to use Adobe sometimes to a designer, which is bonkers.
Yeah, you need a good PowerPoint.
Always need a good
Made some
PowerPoint.
spreadsheets today at work, you know?
Did I tell you, Shannon, I deleted my beautiful spreadsheet that I made? Like an idiot.
What happened?
So I had
What spreadsheet are we talking about?
I had an incredible like future planning spreadsheet that I made fully programmed to do math for me. It had like a budgeting thing, mortgage calculator, interest rate calculator. It had resources. I had a bibliography. Like I spent so much time on this thing, and I went and I cleared out my Google Drive, and I accidentally permanently deleted it.
So tragic.
So
heartbreaking.
I was hoping, and I was like, oh, maybe someone has it, like, because I shared it with Shannon once, but I deleted the copy that I shared with her, like an idiot. But
you do. I was just about to say, like, I can look.
I deleted the copy as well. So if you have it, it'll be a miracle. But I genuinely don't think you do, because it was on Google Drive. So it's like, my source file is what you would have seen anyway. So
I see.
But anyway, not food related, but future related. But yeah, and I've been doing food and design like hand in hand ever since that day. So like really nothing has changed, but I do very much appreciate sitting at a desk every day rather than being covered in chicken grease. But
how's that?
I think someone posed it to me as like, cooking is awesome, being a chef is awesome, but just so you know, you have to be a chef when you go home too. And I was like, that sounds terrible.
That's such a good point.
That is a great point.
It's like, you already have to cook for yourself, and that like is a super big hobby of mine. I mean, look at like the stuff that I do. But I like it being a hobby rather than it being my job, because I don't think I would love it as much. Because like, I mean, until you're like a head chef in a restaurant, or you own your own restaurant or bakery or something like that, you're kind of just doing grunt work, grunt cooking. It's not like you're creating revolutionary dishes for people all the time, when like I can do that and just give them to Noah and be just as satisfied. So, but yeah, I'm glad you still like set design and you found that it was for you. Are you working in that field in any capacity now, or because I know we all like just graduated, so.
Yeah, so I'm doing I'm a painter for an event design company, so I do like big corporate events where we'll like recreate old buildings, or like make custom cutouts of like, I'm painting like a big Volkswagen Beetle cutout right now, like a bunch of 70s stickers on it.
I love that.
That's cool.
So I come home covered in paint every day.
That sounds awesome. I come home to
Not
get
as
covered
bad
in
as
paint.
chicken grease.
That's cool though. I'm glad like all three of us are working in like the fields we went to school for, which is cool, because I know that doesn't always happen immediately for people.
Oh yeah, we're definitely so lucky that we're able to do that.
And we live in an area, like we live very close to a very big city, where like those kind of jobs are pretty available. Like to be a designer or a communications person. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what your position is called besides communications, but that's what I know it to be called. Is there a different like name for the actual position, or is that kind of what it's called, Shannon?
For what I'm currently doing?
Well, like in general, like my career is a designer, regardless of what I do. Is there a general term for yours, or is it very specific to what you actually do?
That's such a good question, because I could for sure go in and say I'm a communicator, but then that's like, that sounds made up, you know?
So aren't we all?
I think, so I think it's generally a little more tailored to like what you're actively working on. Like, oh, I'm a writer, or I am a salesperson. Like you kind of.
Yeah, yours is, it's such a broad industry.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Okay.
a lot of ways you can take it, which is fun.
Yeah. Because I don't want to just call you a communications major, because I feel like that you're not. You're a communications graduate degree holder, professional, communications professional. I'm going to call you that.
Oh, that sounds better. I do like the way communicator
Sounds
sounds, though, as fake
classy.
as it is. But yeah, no, that does sound very classy. But cool. So yeah, getting to do the thing, Faith, which is awesome. Have you made, either for your job or for other reasons, have you made prop food before? And what is that like?
I made prop food a lot in college. So specifically, I did like Little Women. I was the props master for that show. When we did that, there's a lot of food in that show. Like
Yes.
it was prop food is so weird. I had a whole class on it for my props major. It was a lot because basically you cannot use real food like on stage for like a lot of it because you run into all these issues, especially with like budgeting in terms of like having to buy food and like it expiring
Hmm.
and all those different kinds of things and like needing like on-set refrigeration and all that.
Right.
So a lot of the food I made was just like foam wrapped in napkins, cleverly disguised. So like a lot of prop food is.
Yeah. What was your favorite dish or food to make so far?
I don't know. I don't really have a favorite one to make. My favorite one was when we did one show called Game Night that I believe was written by a student at the school, and
Mhm.
we got to order a real pizza for that show every night.
Oh,
And
cool.
we got to do
Wow.
that because all of the actors and crew would make sure to eat the rest of it backstage. So we weren't wasting any money.
There you go.
So we would order a whole pizza.
I
Wow.
my theater club, drama club in my school was like bare bones at best. It was very, very low budget. And even like I went to your guys' shows and it felt so much more polished than ours was. And it was just like, I mean, a lack of resources, but also like we didn't have like a real theater. We had like a lecture hall with a curtain. And the curtain was broken. And like we didn't have like the dedication from students the way that you guys had it. Like we could have never done a musical. We did not have people consistently showing up and having their stuff like memorized in time. And like even my senior year, I was so bad with remembering the lines. I felt so bad. I even messed up on stage. It was hysterical. But we had one where we had like a Thanksgiving dinner on the table, and it wasn't like the show of the year. It was like the like Christmas short that we did, and we had a turkey, and it was like as if someone put packing tape on a ball and then popped the ball and removed it, so it was freaking hollow, and it was like crunchy and covered in like brown paint. And it was just, you could tell from the back seat, you could tell that was a wad of tape. Like, we could
So
not be
funny.
bothered. Like, I mean, the fact that we got to put on a show at all was enough. But, like, whatever. I mean, the tickets were like $4. Like, who cares? But it was fun to do. But the productions that you guys had were always really cool. Like, we never had lighting. We had lighting 1 year, and it was one spotlight, and I do not understand why we didn't use it the next year. Baffles me. Because they had all the lights in the theater on all the time. Don't do that. Turn off the lights over the crowd. Why would you have every light on?
Yeah. I remember going to your
I
shows. Sorry, go ahead, Faith.
No, I was gonna say, to be fair, I did the lighting for our shows, and that is so difficult, especially low budget.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the lecture
It
hall,
is.
we had 4 different sections of lighting. You had directly over the stage, the left chairs, the right chairs, and the middle chairs. turn off the chair lights. I don't know why we didn't do that. It baffles me to this day that we didn't just turn off 3 light switches. I suggested it, and the teachers were like, no. And I'm like, why? Because our junior year, we turned off all the lights
of your audience.
and we had a spotlight. Why didn't we do that again? Why did we lose that? It just, it baffles me. It boggles my mind why we did it that way, where it could have looked so much more finished had we just turned the lights off. I don't get it.
It's an interesting choice, for sure.
Right?
And you
Especially
guys had a
when
whole
it was already wired
lighting
to
grid
work that
above
way.
you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I talked right over you. What did you say?
It's okay. You guys, I think you had a whole light grid above you.
Yeah.
With
You did. I remember that.
Yeah. Isn't that
which is half the
unbelievable?
battle.
There were
of the
colored
space.
lights up there. Like they had the cellophane on it.
Mhm.
Like, and those
They had
never
the
got
gels
used.
in?
Yeah, the gel. That's a better name for it.
Yeah, that's what they're called. They're called gels.
Yeah. And we had the infrastructure to do it. It wasn't like we had to get up there on a ladder. We had to turn off the light switch.
Oh, I had to get up on a ladder.
It's scary up on a ladder.
Yeah.
I
was
did
like
it
a
once
10-foot ladder.
Yeah. I used to work at my college's, they had the theater club, musical theater club, which I was super involved in, directed some shows for them, and then they had a separate theater company for the people who were actually studying theater. So I did a work study job with the theater company, and one time my boss had me go up on that super tall ladder with the lights, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't. I don't feel secure with both my hands not I need one hand on the ladder still to steady me to feel safe. And then I came back down and I was like, can you please have someone else do this? It's tough up there.
At my college, we had a grid, I want to say 60 feet in the air above the ground.
Good
and it was
Lord.
just 2x4 boards that you could see the gaps between.
Yeah.
And that was all you had to walk on. I refused to go up there. I
So
refused. The one
That's
thing I
crazy.
wouldn't do.
So
Yeah.
crazy. But quick little tangent directing story. I directed a show of Footloose with Musical Theater Club, which was super fun. And there is a scene where they're in a diner. So my mom and I had made some prop smoothies and things. So we had one of those fake what's the word I'm thinking of? Like for a children's kitchen set cup that we had painted, so it looked like a smoothie, stuffed some foil in there, painted that. But for whatever reason, I decided to have real peanuts. No one in the cast had an allergy, luckily, but we would have the peanuts in the bowl, leave for the day after rehearsal, come back, and a significant amount of the peanuts were gone. And we were like, who's eating these peanuts? I never found out. I don't know if someone was eating them. I don't know if birds got in there. Because sometimes they leave doors open. I simply never know what happened. But by the time the show was almost there, we had to go out and buy more stuff to fill it. It was just, it kept disappearing.
Some mice were just like, oh my god, they brought us a feast again.
Another day? More peanuts?
That's funny.
That's the thing about doing props on a set, but you have to make sure that you have everything. It's a rule and it's known amongst actors professionally. You will get in trouble for taking props and no one will feel sorry for you. Leave the props where they go. You have whole tables. Prop masters will have whole tables backstage that they'll cover in paper, and they'll draw out squares for everything, and everything goes in a square that's labeled. So if anything's missing, there's an empty square with a label on it, and I know exactly the last person who had it because I have the script, so I know who's in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Hunt them down.
You lock up all the food so no one can take it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what was so crazy to me, too. like we were in. There was the one show that we did like actually in the theater. So I'm like, anyone who's in there like knows the rules, like not to take that. And I know it wasn't people in the cast because it would be after rehearsal. But I'm like, what is? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe a janitor just got hungry or something. Like, still a mystery.
That's stupid.
How did the cups end up looking on stage? Because that's like a huge pet peeve of mine, is they would ask me to like just paint like wine glasses to make it look like there was something in there, and it looks
Mhm.
so fake. There's no weight in it. It doesn't move at all. You can tell from a mile away that it's just a cup with paint.
Yeah, I think it still looked like a cup with paint, but because it was a smoothie, it sort of had like it didn't need to move as much. So
Yeah,
like
right?
the
Smoothies
the
good
foil
thing to
me
do that
inside
with.
looked like whipped cream. So it just sort of looked like it was a very full smoothie that no one had touched yet. And it's not like people were interacting with it too much. It was just kind of to set the decor. So it, if you looked at it too closely, you're like, yeah, that's paint. But I think you could suspend the belief enough because you didn't have to interact with it, if that makes sense.
I saw
Mm.
a super cool like example of like someone who did like a prop cup. It was a wine glass with wine in it, but they put like a real like wine colored looking liquid in it. But then they put plastic wrap over the top, and or it's like a shrink wrap, and then they shrink wrapped it to the cup. So it looked like just a regular glass, but you could just flip it over, and it was basically like it had a lid.
That's so smart.
Yeah, it was super
That
cool.
is
But like,
smart.
go get
Genius.
yourself some shrink wrap. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, Faith, how would you usually do like liquids and things like that?
Oh, we wouldn't. I would be told by my director to just like paint a cup and then be like, that's so lame. And then
Gotcha.
be like, well, you're not in charge of props. You're in charge of the set this time. You're like, okay.
Is there a
It
way
was
you would
good
have
the
done
sec
it if you could?
I probably would have Googled it and I probably would have found the saran wrap thing because that sounds genius. That sounds like the
Hmm.
best solution for that.
Yeah. Once you knew there was plastic wrap, like you could see the seam, but like no one's
From a
gonna
distance,
nitpick
you
it if
can't
you don't
tell.
know.
Especially like live on stage from that far away, no one's gonna tell.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it was clearly like meant for someone to have held it because like you wanted the liquid to move, and they could like even like pretend to take a sip from it, and it would
Yeah,
look like you were drinking it. Um, but like obviously, like you could tell if you knew, but only if you knew. If you didn't know, you wouldn't. No one would have thought twice about it.
Mm.
that's crazy. That's like my favorite thing to do when watching like TV shows and movies though. Next time you watch a TV show or a movie and they have a cup in a scene, like pay
Yeah,
close attention to the cup. You can tell that it's empty and there's no weight to it.
Yeah.
it's
You can
so
tell when
funny.
they're not drinking anything.
Oh my god, it's like
Hallmark movies especially are
oh,
so
Hallmark's the worst one. Oh, when they, oh my god, I cannot remember precisely what I've seen this in, but I've seen it more than one time. When a freaking character has an ear of corn and they bite the ear of corn. It's like, no, you didn't. You put that corn in front of your teeth and did nothing. I can see that you didn't eat it.
They added that sound effect in post.
Yeah, they went, and I'm like, no, like just at least push it up to your mouth to make it look like you bit it. Or like when they take a bite of a burger and it's like, no, you didn't.
hmm
And it's like totally, I mean, I laugh at it more than anything because I know like, I mean, you can't have them do 20 takes and they keep eating a burger over and over again. You're going to run out of burger.
hmm
Or like, or corn or whatever the heck. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a way where you can frame it. In most cases you can, where like the scene is just them taking the bite of the corn because they're not talking if they're taking a bite of the corn. So just put the camera in a way that where they're the only ones on screen. They could take a real bite only once and then cut away. I don't know. And I'm like obviously overthinking it. Like it has to happen. It's the way it is. But when you can so clearly
Yeah.
tell that they did not drink that drink or eat that food, it's like, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
here's
then
the thing, there's like two options. Is you can have a scene of people talking where they're just kind of like pushing food around on their plate and no one takes a bite of anything ever.
Yep.
Or you can have food continuity issues, which I argue is the better option.
yeah. Um, one thing that I also love is like I don't there's like a name for the trope that I've heard from something, but I'm just gonna call it the a-hole bites the apple bit. Where whenever you want to make someone look jerky, you have them bite an apple and you can just tell that they're the jerk because they bit an apple, like the way that they bit it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell when they like don't bite it, but like the use of an apple, like this is the asshole, and you can just tell. Like Draco Malfoy does it in the 7th movie. Whenever he puts the apple through the vanishing cabinets.
Oh yeah.
And the way he just bites the apple, like like the bites apple, like this is what it says in the script. Bites apple in quotes derogatory. Like
What?
that's what it looks like. I can only describe it in a stage direction. But he eats
My
it with so much like scorn on his face. Like it's an apple, buddy. You just succeeded. You did what you were trying to do. You're helping out the goal you were trying to help out, and you built the cabinet and you succeeded. And you bite the apple like it murdered your parents. I don't understand. Smile, bud. You succeeded. Put the apple through the cabinet.
Put all of his hatred
Log-
into that apple.
Ugh. It's just such a thing. Homer does it too. And like you see like the hot guy who is like the childhood best friend who broke up with the protagonist lady from New York. And he saunters up with his plaid shirt and his axe in his hand. And then he bites an apple and then like rubs his face on his shirt. It's like, I'm not going to like you. I can feel it.
Yep.
Star Kid does that trope too.
Oh,
with,
yes.
Was it Black Friday? That's him? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot about
The whole
that.
apple. That poor audience member who just sat with an apple with one bite taken out of it for like the rest of the show. What do you do with that? I feel weird about throwing it out. Like that's history.
I imagine a
Joey Richter
stagehand probably
touched
went and
that. How
grabbed
dare
it.
you?
And
Oh,
speaking
man.
of Star Kid too, they, for the most part, are not guilty of the fake eating trope.
No.
Like for people not familiar with Star Kid, they are a musical group that does a variety of different shows now at this point, and puts the majority of them on YouTube. And they got their start with a Harry Potter musical, which is like a parody of Harry Potter, and it's delightful. Would recommend that you watch it. And they spent what was it, like half their budget on different snacks for them to eat throughout the show.
Their
Like
budget
Ron has like a
was
giant Hershey bar,
Yeah.
and like
their budget
Literally
was
a totally
$150,
irrelevant-
and they spent $50 on that chocolate bar.
Such an irrelevant part of the show too. It was just a running gag.
Yeah.
That had zero weight on the plot at all.
Yeah,
They totally could have cut it.
because like Ron's character always like had some sort of food, or at least often did, or was talking about how hungry he was or something. Which was kind of a play off like the actual movie / book where like Ron was always hungry. But yeah, he had that giant Hershey bar at one point, the one that's like 2 feet long. And what actually started this conversation for us the first time was the presence of red vines in a Harry Potter sequel, the second one. Yeah. Or was it both?
I think it's
Both. I'm
Yeah.
pretty
both,
sure they
yeah.
appear in all of them.
Yeah.
A cameo.
From what I know, how
The
that
red vine
happened is
cameo.
like they would basically act as if they were sponsored by red vines throughout the entire play. It's just like red vines, what can't they do, you know? And red vines is like, it's just like a strawberry licorice. It's a Twizzler. And I have an unpopular opinion about them that we'll get to. but well, from what I understand, the story was the daughter of the person who owned Red Vines, or like was a management position in the company, loved Star Kid, and they like offered to sponsor the show, and they didn't want it to be sponsored, but they like did it anyway for this girl as if they were sponsored, but they didn't even like Red Vines, so they actually put Twizzlers in the bag.
Mm-hmm. As they should.
As they shouldn't. Red Vines are better.
Honestly, knowing that makes so much more sense now, because like I've had Red Vines now because of that musical, and
Mm-hmm.
looking at them in the bag, they look so different than they did on stage.
Oh yeah, because
I
Red
thought it
Vines
was
are like
just like the
thicker.
lighting or something.
Mm-hmm.
They're brighter. They're like a fluorescent red.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
unnatural.
you could almost fit a Twizzler inside the hollow of a Red Vine. Like they're huge compared to Twizzlers.
Yeah.
But like it was still cool that they did this. I mean, this is obviously assuming the story is correct. I saw it like as like a shared Tumblr post, and like I've never seen anything to debunk it, so it could, I don't know, I could be blatantly wrong. But I did see this more than once.
I think A Very Potter Musical was the first one that they posted like on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I know they did shows before that in like their college. Like they did a Lord of the Rings one that they never filmed.
Yeah,
That I'm
yeah,
very
and they were
upset
just
that
like a
they never
home theater
filmed.
at that point. Yeah, and it's so cool because they've come so far. They've done a lot of big shows, and they offer almost all of their shows for free on YouTube at some point. They do live streams of some of them that you have to pay for, but they tour, they have merch and stuff. They were on Smosh today. Like, incredible. I'm so happy for them. It was pretty funny.
I did watch that right before I hopped on call with you guys.
Joey doesn't disappoint, as always. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And like that was my first instinct, or first like time seeing like a semi-professional theater production with like that used food, and it was very funny. And I think that's all they used for food for the most part. I think there was like a fake carrot at some point. I don't know what I'm remembering. Could be Trail to Oregon for all I know.
That's not Trail to Oregon. The one thing I might say is that might be Starship.
Would they have a carrot? Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they used real food. But they didn't even have like tables for like the feast. They just sat on benches facing forward. So
yeah, their whole set was like it was 4 benches and like 2 pillars that they just moved around.
Yeah, they did have the desk for Dumbledore's office at the end, and that was pretty much it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm such a firm believer though, especially with theater, you don't need much. You know? You're playing characters anyway. Just let the audience like play with you. Yeah, that bench is gonna be a piano and a table and a desk. Awesome. Got it.
Yeah, that's that you can rely on your actors and also like your fans for like filling in the blanks. It's I imagine I don't do set design, and maybe Faith could speak to this more than I can, but like I can relate it to design in that like the best design is invisible kind of thing, where like if it feels natural and blends in without a lot of effort or being overdone, that's better than like a really intricate, thought out, amazing design that is so in your face. Where like the more you can do with less, the better it feels overall.
And there's nothing to say that like intricate, whimsical set designs aren't a good thing to do. It's the idea that it has to feel normal. Like the last thing someone should be thinking about watching the show is how like cool the set looks. It should be very like complimentary to what's happening on stage, where it's the background of what's happening. It should very much like blend in, and you should almost not notice it until like on your drive home you're like, wait, was that really what was happening in front of my face?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to see the choices that designers make in a lot of ways. It's probably, similar for theater and graphic design and whatever else, but it's so integrated with the story, or at least like good design probably should be. So whatever message you're trying to get across, it's there either in your face or just sort of in the background. And I don't know, I always think it's fascinating to unpack like why that was there, what happened to make that all work together. And yeah.
Yeah. The coolest set design I ever got to see like in person was, Faith can probably remember the name of this. It was a follow-up. It was like a fan play follow-up of The Crucible. And Faith,
yeah, because my brother was in that.
yeah, Faith's brother was in the show, and I did not know that. And then my class went there as a field trip because we had read The Crucible. And I just walked in, and then Faith is sitting there. And I was like, what the hell? And then she's like, oh yeah, Trevor's in this. I was like, huh? And it was cool. Trevor was in it. He was
And my brother,
main character's son.
Yeah, he played Abigail's son.
Yep. And
he got like 3 months off of school to do that show, and he made like $1,000 doing that.
Oh, geez, in 3 months?
Yeah, it was a good time for Trevor. He had fun.
Such a good experience. How old was he when he did that?
He was, I want to say, like 12, 13 when he was in that.
Because we were we were 15 or 16 when I saw it.
Yeah, he was the only child actor in the show.
Yeah.
It was Abigail 1702 is the name of it. Yep. Very good show.
A beautiful show. Like it was very circular. There was a whole garden and like forest and like an archway. It was so nice.
They laid down a whole wooden floor like on top of the stage. It was beautiful.
It was very
cool. A lot of projections.
I stayed for the questioning afterward, and I did get to ask a question, but I really wanted to ask a second one because I wanted to like point it at Trevor. Just to like, because like at the time he would have remembered who I was. And I wanted to like. Was he up
there for the questioning?
He was for the very beginning, yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think they let him stay for the questioning most of the time.
I think they did because we were a school.
Oh, probably.
I think that's because he was definitely there, and I asked them what their favorite parts of their costumes were, and he did answer. But I wanted to point one at him just to like. Not to say, like, do you remember me or anything, but, like, to be like, hi, how's it going? Good to see you again. Question. But I couldn't do it because I did not want to put him on the spot in front of people. But it would have been very funny. Because obviously, I mean, he would have been fine with it. He was clearly comfortable enough to act in a show. But I didn't want to, like, if he didn't remember me, make him feel really bad, and I didn't want to do that. But whatever. I got to say, like, good job after the show, and I still didn't tell him who I was, but it was funny. To walk in and sit down with my class and just see, like, Faith sitting in the corner was bonkers.
I think that was the day that, it was one of, like, the weird religious days that we had off from high school, because we were in a private Catholic school.
Yeah.
It was like a weird day that no one else had off, and I was like, well, Trevor's performing, I'll just go. And they used to let me, like, just sit up in the balcony. They let me sit in on, like, the lighting booth once during the show. Lighting booths are super boring in the professional world. It's just someone sitting there and they hit a button that says go. I used to be in the back, like, flipping all the light switches manually, like, dimming them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, keeping track of the book, going through all the cues. It was a lot. And they just sit there and hit a button.
It's all programmed and timed, I imagine.
All programmed now. It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Wild.
Do you remember ever doing, like, food for our high school productions, Shannon?
I'm trying to think what shows we would have had food in.
Arsenic and Old Lace, we had a lot of wine glasses. I remember.
Oh, yeah.
There was a bottle of wine in one of them. I
remember
that.
That was probably Arsenic and Old Lace. That's right. I think that was grape juice.
That's probably grape juice.
Yeah. We just full on
I was
were like,
thinking,
if it spills, we'll stain the carpet.
yeah,
It's
right.
fine.
Were we just not worried about anyone's like clothes or anything?
I don't think so. That was really not a thought that crossed our mind. Yeah. I mean, this isn't prop food, but I remember my mom made a wonderful display for the concession stand at we did a
Remember
production of
that.
Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah.
And basically, I think our director at the time had sort of like asked, parents, oh, if you want to be involved or like help out with things. And my mom basically was like, let me take this entire concession stand off your plate because I have a vision. It was just like everything was like themed after the movie. They had haystacks for the scarecrows and like lion cookies, and
It was
she really went
awesome.
all out for it,
It
and
was
it was awesome.
great.
It was also so hot that day, so everything was kind of melting. But
One
yeah,
of
no, just another instance where the food matches the story, matches the vibe.
That
All
was
ties
the best
together.
show we ever did.
It was pretty good. It was a fun time.
I remember
As a
going
flying monkey.
I mean, going to your shows were always so memorable for a lot of reasons for me. One of them, seeing you guys put on a show. Top one, best one. I love to be involved, especially when I didn't see you guys often. It was an easy way for me to like, hang out and do something and see what you guys are up to. 2, Shannon's mom's whoopie pies. 3, I was so freaking tired every single year I was there. It was amazing. I stayed awake. Shannon knows this. I would show up because the play was always the day I would come back home from Skills USA, which was a national trade competition. And like it would be the day I come back, and you don't get to sleep when you're on those trade competitions. You have you party until midnight, and then you got to be up at 6 a.m. for 3 days in a row. And by party, I mean there's like a dance or whatever. And I was always like, all right, I'm gonna take a nap, and then we're gonna get up, and then we're gonna go to Shannon's show, and then I'm gonna go back to sleep. Oh my god, wait, I can't hear you guys. Oh my god,
no.
Was I talking over you guys? I turned my volume down.
No, you were fine.
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, we didn't say
We're
anything.
talking over us.
Okay, you know what? It's hysterical because if you said anything, the recording heard it, but I didn't.
The opposite of less.
It's happening again. No, I have eyes on it this time. But yeah, I did the states competition like all 4 years, or at least 3 out of 4 years. And my mom was like, "Are you sure you want to go? You're like falling asleep." I'm like, "I'm going. Let me nap." Then she'd wake me up in an hour and we'd book it.
Oh, was that ever before Shakespeare? Because I have trouble believing you stayed awake for that.
I enjoyed Shakespeare. I mean, I also my brain was turned on the entire show because I was translating from my mother. So it was totally fine. I never fell asleep during a show. I was wide awake during the shows. But it just happened to be a day where I was so freaking sleep deprived every year. And I don't know how it scheduled so perfectly every year. That it was the day, because it wasn't the day after I got back. It was the day I got back. So I took a hour and a half bus ride back from the show after the award show that started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then we'd come home from that. Then we go to the school. Then my mom would pick me up. And then they'd take us back to my house. And then I'd unpack my stuff because we have a suitcase or whatever of stuff for 3 days. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go to bed. And
it's such an endurance run, but I'm glad you made it.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I did. I don't regret it at all. And because I don't sleep well in hotel rooms for the most part either. So even the 4 or 5 hours per night we did get, I didn't sleep very much. Like one year I stayed up talking to my friend all night, and I was like, "Can you sleep?" She goes, "No." And then we just talked until the sun came up, and I was like, "Shit, we have to sleep." And then it was, "All right, everyone, get up. Your competitions are in an hour." And I'm like, "Oh no." It's terrible. I would try to get naps in on the bus. And we know I'm not good with...
That's amazing that you can sleep on a bus.
Oh, I can't.
Oh, could you not?
I would try.
Okay.
This is the person who gets motion sickness on buses.
Right.
I should have brought Dramamine,
Okay, if you can sleep on the
baby.
bus, but not in the hotel, that's an interesting...
Oh, yeah. Well, at some point, it was just it was either sleep or pass out. So, like, as I could be motion sick and falling asleep at the same time.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah. Last time I took a bus ride, I think I mentioned at the end of a stream, I took Dramamine and I was on freaking cloud 9 for 5 hours. It was amazing. I was so sleepy and comfy. I fell asleep like with my head in my lap, which is like a terrible way to fall asleep, but and then I felt so bad because I woke up and I was like, hey, I was like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, you good? He's like, no. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, no, I'm comfortable. My legs hurt, my back hurts. I'm like, do you want to switch? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. And then I went back to bed. I fell asleep on his shoulder. I offered him some Dramamine. He did not take it, but
You tried.
yeah, just stubborn as always. But really quick, because we are hitting the end of our hour, and there's a very important story that we talked about in the long forgotten episode that I think needs to be brought up again. And I'm gonna. This is the one PG-13 section we're gonna have probably on this podcast. It's not that bad, but I'm warning. Hey, Molly, this is for you. Shannon has a story about a candy shop that she went to with her mom.
Yeah, I thought we would sort of naturally get there again, but I don't remember how we segued to it last time.
I think
we were talking about like red pines and then other not common candies.
I think we talked about like foods from shows that we didn't like or didn't think we would like, and then I remembered the candy from Willy Wonka's that I couldn't remember in the show. It was the marshmallow cup, for those who were questioning what I was thinking about. It was that. And there was a real world candy. But I think that's how we got there.
Okay. Something like that. But anyway, let's just like imagine, much like you're seeing it a play, imagine all the other plot happened and we got to this story.
Good segue.
But basically... there is this candy store. I don't remember the name of it now, but it's just like this little place. I think it was next to like a freight company. Like it's just sort of by itself in a plaza. And we went in there because I think I had needed some Laffy Taffies for... Oh, I remember. So it was an event where like we would promote different clubs and things that you could join at the beginning of the school year. And I was part of the improv comedy club. So again, to stay on theme, we got Laffy Taffies because they had jokes. We had jokes. It was all so fun.
There was a segue. That's how we talked about it.
We got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we went to that store because we knew they had, relatively good sized portions of Laffy Taffies, could get different mixes. And there was also a fun store because it had candies you don't get all that often and like some older ones that are less available in stores. And then as my mom and I were walking around, we see on the top shelf there's this little section, maybe like 2 feet wide, and it has a curtain in front of it. And like, that's so bizarre. This is the candy store. And above it, it said like 18 plus only. So we're like, well, of course we have to peek in here. So we peeked and we look, and it's just chocolate dicks. Oh, the whole shelf is just different spicy candy and not spicy taste-wise.
Well, besides a gag gift, I cannot imagine what you would use these for.
They're for bachelorette parties exclusively. Yeah. Like 21st birthday parties, a lot with girls too, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. But it was so funny. Like, that's not what we came in for, but, we had that experience, and not gonna forget that anytime.
The universe decided you needed that day.
Yep. They're like, you know what you haven't seen.
Oof. Yeah, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how detailed were they?
I think, honestly, there were like different levels of detail. they had some smaller ones that were just, you know, the general shape, and then some larger ones that were a little more detailed. Yeah, nothing too biological because it was candy, but yeah, no, you knew what it was. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
You said nothing was like true to size, right?
Well,
I don't know if Shannon has a frame of reference here.
I guess it depends. I for sure don't, but it does depend on the, you know, average size. I guess I don't remember how big
there is
these
a
were.
large variety.
There's a wide range.
Yeah, there
that
is.
I do know.
That's true. And the like from what I know, the average is different in different locations, so there's no true average.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, those who say it's 8, no, it isn't. Oh yeah, the average is 8 inches. Yeah, okay.
And then I hear numbers like that, and I'm sitting next to a ruler, and I'm like, no. There's no way.
That's the thing. Like, guys, look at a ruler compared to the size of the average woman. It's just not.
It's like, yeah. Anyway.
Oh man, yeah.
Like that much chocolate though, I would be happy, but
yeah,
right.
Oh man, that's funny. But it's like I could see someone attempting to use this, like, to spice up the bedroom, you know, like.
In what way?
Sharing it, but like putting the whole damn thing in your mouth as a display, probably.
But it's
fair.
like hard chocolate though.
I was gonna say, if you're putting it anywhere other than your mouth, that's an issue.
Oh, absolutely. Just like in general, I am not this kind of person. This conversation is already weird enough. Food don't belong in this scenario in general for me. I don't understand why people be bringing food. That sounds unsanitary. Keep the whipped cream and the fruits out. That's just me. I don't know about you. Go enjoy your food in the kitchen.
I think that's really the takeaway.
That's the
From
takeaway.
today's lesson. You know, if you're in a candy store and you see a curtain, pull back the curtain, but don't, you know, leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Make sure there aren't kids around first.
Yeah.
If you buy the gummies that look like little peepees, they're pretty bad. They don't taste that good.
No, because it's all just like, it's all for the gimmick. None of it's meant to actually taste good.
No.
They don't expect you to like.
Yeah.
They expect you all to be like too grossed out to like put it in your mouth or anything.
They made a pee-pee mold. Do you think they bothered to put sugar in the gelatin? Of course not.
Yeah, right?
They spent all the budget on the mold.
all the money and effort went to the peen. Oh my god, we went to a Catholic school. This is like the first time we're talking in like 4 years, and we talk about this twice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Molly, if you're still listening, I'm sorry. You didn't hear any of this. Nana, I'm a little less sorry because I'm sure you laughed. But but yeah, I had something else to say. I was going to talk about something. Oh, I mean, I was going to talk a little bit about simmer from a more like conversational sense rather than like, I'm not trying to sell you anything this time or advertise or at all. Because we were talking about food photography or food like fake food stuff, and I was going to go into food photography, and I didn't do it, and I'm going to do it really quickly now. But I did a lot of it for simmer, and what simmer is, if I haven't explained it here at all, was my college thesis project, where it was basically a resource for people who are growing up, who are moving out, who are going to college in any capacity, who have a lot on their plate, pun intended, who need to learn how to cook, because at some point you need to learn how to cook. You got to learn how to cook for yourself at some point if you want, you know, to eat well and to eat inexpensively, and you know, it's a good thing once you learn how to do it and enjoy it. So I wrote a whole book. There's a poster series. There were recipe cards, a website, a social media, which is like what I've been advertising this podcast through, and what is still alive. It now has an online store as well as an Etsy store. Etsy is just for people who like to use more familiar websites than like my self-built one. But I did a lot of food photography for that, and food photography is a weird place for photography, I guess, because like you use foods as other foods, you dress stuff up, you plate things in a way that makes no sense. And then I ended up presenting those pictures, and we ended up going with my drawn images of food anyway, so it was such a waste. But that's a cool thing to learn how to do. If you're in photography, try doing food photography for a little while, and like dressing up food to look rather unrealistic. But that's that. That's what Simmer is. Have you guys ever done any sort of like food photography for anything? I mean, I don't know if Shannon would have, but Faith probably would be closer to that.
Really done food photography. It's something that I've like done quite a bit of like research on through like, you know, the viral videos that show up of like, here's how we do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cool process. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. A lot of stuff is fake. There's a lot of hairspray used to make stuff look shiny.
Yes. Shoe polish.
Ice cream. Ice cream is never real. It's always mashed potatoes. Because ice cream just melts instantly under like any bright studio lights.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not gonna work. You can just put food dye into mashed potatoes though.
Yeah.
Mix it up. It works great on stage too if you have actors who are chill about just eating mashed potatoes.
Yeah. It was a super fun experience, and the thing is, like, doing something like that within the context of college is like their job is to get you to do things differently, or at least to try it. They're going to critique everything you do. They're going to say, I don't like this, do that, or maybe this doesn't work, do that, even if they like it and even if it works, because they want you to have to try new things. They want you to deal with criticism and having to redo stuff, even things that you like. Which is a great learning experience once you learn in that context. But like when you're in it, it's incredibly frustrating. But to have done all this work, and I didn't have studio lights or whatever, I just put food out on my deck in the sunlight and use that, or just like pictures I had taken from my Instagram or whatever, I ended up reusing, and then to still just use my doodles that I did. It ended up with a much better project overall, but I don't know, it made me do something that I wouldn't have done otherwise, which is pretty cool, even though it did take up a lot of my time that I didn't have, and I wanted to cry a lot, but welcome to college. But, so yeah, there's like, at least for those who have heard me talk about Simmer every week, like, that's what it is. That's what, like, it means to me. I sell a lot of different things now. Like, I have bags and napkins and coasters, and clothes are still coming, and the posters that I made are still being sold, as well as the actual book that I wrote. Not that anyone's purchased it, but it is available. So that's I'm hoping that becomes more of an actual gig in my life at some point. It isn't now, but it's okay. I have a full-time job, and I don't ever plan on quitting a full-time job to do like Simmer. I don't think it'll ever become that. But for it to be like a side thing that I do, I'm very excited for that possibility one day. But there's that.
Yeah.
The
Super cool.
t-shirts
And
are
it's
super cute too.
Thank
Yes.
you.
so cute. Love the art style. And it's the cookbook especially, it's so great if you're before step one in a recipe. Like a lot of times recipes that you find online, they'll just jump to like, oh, whisk the eggs and like saute this and julienne that, and like all these terms that if you're not kitchen savvy, you're not going to know what that is. So it's really a great opening act. Wow, bringing it all together. Opening act to the learning how to cook journey. So
Yeah.
if you're in a place where you don't know where to start, or you know someone who doesn't know where to start, this is a great place to do it.
Well, thank you. Shannon also very lovingly edited this book with me. Not particularly that I asked her to, but I gave her a copy for free. And she was like, hey, love this. However, it is riddled with typos. And we went through it page by
Just wrote
page
all over it.
together, sitting next to each other at my desk. We went through it page by page and fixed it all. And apparently I used many extraneous commas.
Okay. I can just curse with common knowledge.
Did I ever give you
So
a
would be
proper copy of it?
displeased.
I
Shannon?
think you both said things at the same time.
Yeah,
Well,
Faith, go ahead.
I just said Sister Priscilla would be displeased by all your commas.
Oh my god, yeah. I am one who puts commas in just where I would pause while speaking naturally rather than where it actually would go. So there were a lot of extra ones for like the inflection, but they were not necessary, and it just kind of got repetitive after a while because there was probably an extra comma per page. Like there was a lot. And that book is 88 pages long.
it's okay.
Which is wild. Yeah, it's 88 pages, but like the book actually printed is like a centimeter thick because the pages are really thin, which is like fine. I wanted it to be a slim book that you could like shove in the corner of your cabinet or something and not take up a lot of space. And it's a wire, like a spiral bound type thing, so it's easy to like flip around and hide places. So it's a cool thing. I'm proud of it. Do I still want to change stuff about it? Yeah. But did I already buy 25 copies of the book? Yes. So that's what I must live with.
It's okay. It's volume 1.
Volume 1. Yeah, I'm working on a set of recipe cards too. Like it has 9 recipes in the back. But the entire book, like Shannon said, is like, here's how to hard boil an egg. Here's how to budget grocery shopping. Here's things you should buy in bulk versus not. How to like defrost things, how to like store food. So it's very much like every step but the actual recipe outside of the last 9 pages. So I'm working on ones that are just all recipes. Because I saw a TikTok that someone said, can someone write a cookbook like this, like ordered by how long it takes you to cook the meal, write the measurements in the actual steps. And I just like was listening to it and I was like, I can make this, so I'm gonna do it. In a way, like make like a recipe cards for dummies, kind of like in a way that makes more sense than recipe cards are currently written in, which I'm excited to do.
Nice. Cool stuff ahead. Well, any closing thoughts from anyone?
Those pretty much were mine, so.
I'm just looking through your site right now and the shopping list notepad I want.
Oh, thank you. That is my favorite one. The shopping list is so cool. And it's just like a shopping list that's already, it has a list of stuff. So it's like you just circle the things that you need and then go to the grocery store. So it's good for people who don't know where to start with a list. Which I really enjoyed. I don't use it now because I like know how to like plan shopping. But I definitely use it a lot at the beginning when I was like, oh my god, I'm going to the grocery store. What are the things that I need? And if I could start with a list and eliminate, it made more sense that way. Which is cool. And like everything's sectioned out, and if you're a vegan or vegetarian, there's a whole meat section you can just scratch out. But
perfect.
Yeah.
So it already has the taped turkey on it, got the tinfoil smoothies, the
the mashed potato ice cream.
Mashed potato ice cream. Here you go.
There it is. But there is that weird, awkward ending as usual. Thank you, Faith, for putting up with the same episode twice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good excuse to talk to you again. So we'll probably see you again on here. Definitely talk to you again outside of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. Another week down. We've been doing this for half a year, which is bonkers to me. But there's that. Bonkers also my new favorite word. Let that be your takeaway today. Go say bonkers to someone today. And go eat some mashed potatoes. Adios.